new paradigms from the trainer's vision in tourism. Moderator of this panel, Marta Botti. She was twice the director of tourism of the city of Córdoba. Not many can brag about that in different administrations. She's being in charge of the Secretary of Tourism in Córdoba. She is a counselor for the Agency for the Economic Development of the City of Córdoba, ADEC, founder of the tourism program in Blas Pascal University, founder of IRITOUR, the first research institute for tourism in Córdoba, a member of the board of the Social Association of Travel Agencies. Once, in her many participation as a speaker in local forums, as a conference woman and an expert on tourism, I listened to her say that there are two T's in her last name, Botti. One is T for her last name, and the other T is tourism. Yeah, it's a pleasure for us to have Marta. She is such a key referent, very well known abroad. The times I've talked to many references in the international tourism, she was mentioned, and now in this panel that we will have local and international representatives of tourism, we had no doubt that she had to be the one to moderate the panel. Marta, it's my pleasure, and all the organization is very glad to have you here in this channel, which is training tourism ahead with the change in paradigms of this pandemic. Marta, please, the floor is yours if you want to come to the panel, while Laura, if you want to name the rest of the panelists. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Those who know me, they know that I always express everything I feel. I feel a lot of appreciation, really. I'd like to thank the ADEC, the Agency for the Economic Development of the City of Córdoba, for representing them from this tourism space in those dialogue tables that we always have. I like to really congratulate from the T of my T as in tourism, the initiative of the first global forum on tourism. I'm going to talk very little about the dark times. I'm going to talk more about the light at the end of the tunnel that is waiting for us. So we start thinking we have to start walking towards that light. Before coming here, I heard Dr. Lopez Rossetti, we just have a short way to go, and I immediately said, okay, I want to believe that. I'm going to open the doors of the academia here in Córdoba. We are called the literate ones. Many doctors have graduated from here since 1913. The second oldest in Latin America. The first one is in Peru. And honestly, these universities has seen many thinkers and essay writers, presidents of the Argentine Republic. Being an academic in Córdoba is just maybe mandatory. You breathe academia in its streets, students walking around. And when I was in Portugal, I missed not to have the ropes. I couldn't smell the ropes in the air. And tourism is a discipline that we decided to place it 20 years ago at a higher level because we thought that it deserved respect of having that special step that was to belong to the university concepts. Córdoba is not only academia, it's also tourism. It's the first destination around the country. We are a destination hub. Despite the fact that the airport is closed, we'll recover it soon. So it's a hub, and Córdoba tourism, that's what we're talking about. And I want to tell you something about Córdoba and tourism. I want to tell you that it's the only city that hosts three tourism observatories. The one that belongs to the city government of the city of Cordoba, and it's been in functions for more than 12 years. And the information that you need, you can find it there. Even though it's being founded at national level, we also have the Tourism Convention Tourism Observatory, the first one in the country in terms of congresses, events managed by the Bureau of Conventions in Cordoba. And if the World Tourism Organization says that if we move $18 billion and 300 million people travel around the world, we have religious tourism, because motivation of faith. Faith moves masses. From the Middle Ages, from the Pilgrims and the Crusades, they were the ones that started the tourism when we had to give those pilgrims and people of faith host and accommodation and food. So Cordoba is totally academic. We know that we have very little time, and I have a beautiful panel. I'm going to say good afternoon and good evening because they are listening to us from Spain. But basically, we are going to say that there is one person that is not here, Seleni Mateus. She couldn't join us, unfortunately. Executive Director of the International Studies of Tourism International Studies from University of George Washington. From George Washington University. So we are going to listen from Ana Concepción García Gómez, Complutense Madrid, Complutense University Madrid. So talking about Madrid and Complutense University, for all of those who have been there, it's great because Madrid is a model city in terms of tourism, so having heard is great. We will also hear from Roberto Iparraguirre. This is a women's panel, but we have one. Tourism is very inclusive. It's really inclusive. We include this man in our panel. We women do a lot for tourism. We don't have inclusion problems in tourism. Roberto Iparraguirre is Dean of the Environment and Tourism School at the Provinces University. It's a local province university. It's very important to have a university that is specifically devoted to the local students, and from the point of view of the from there, they look into the world. They were, as a consequence of the first Institute of Tourism, 40 years teaching tourism and training the tourist experts that already have gray hair. We will also hear from Gabriela Larrauri, coordinator of the National University of Cordoba. She's going to present RAIZ, a program to support local management, and Blas Pascal University with the director of the Tourism and Environmental Management, Eugenia Alaniz, and Silvia Ramallo from Siglo XXI University. Eugenia Alaniz, Blas Pascal University, very much linked to her, myself, because I was in her position before, and Silvia Ramallo, representative of the tourism and hotel program at the Siglo XXI University, one of the largest universities, online universities in the country. Let's begin with María Concepción García Gómez from Spain. Thank you very much, Marta, dear panelists and attendees of this first local forum on tourism and economic development. Here it's still daylight here in Madrid. Now nights start later. It's a pleasure for me to participate in this forum, and especially to be surrounded of such prestigious colleagues. So I'd like to begin my speech by thanking the organizing committee for their kind invitation to be here with you. And I'd like to congratulate this initiative that is great. So I'd like to give you a few ideas about the challenges that we will be facing while developing touristic talent from the higher education perspective right now in these pandemic times, but most of all, looking into the future, into the post-pandemic. Tourism is one of the economic sector that has been negatively impacted by the health crisis, and it will only be in some time due to its characteristics, restrictions on mobility, isolation, and fear. They're all enemies of tourism right now. For example, in Spain, information data states that in the tourism sector, they're scary, really, really scary. In 2019, that apparently it was a long time ago, but it was just a year and a half ago, Spain received 183,000 tourists, which meant a record number after many years that we surpassed our own records, and getting a very curious phenomenon that we received double the number of tourists, foreign tourists, than people living in Spain. So the GDP was very benefited, job creation increased by 13%. In 2019, we were the first country in the world in terms of touristic competitiveness, and the first one around the world with international tourists, only after France and the US. So that was 2019. Last year, in 2020, the arrival of international tourists plummeted by 75%. We only had 19 million tourists, a number that we only had in 1968. However, in the pre-pandemic, tourism was one of the economic sectors that was the most dynamic ones, with incredible growth, a clear engine for the socio-economical development, and by itself, due to its multiplying effect that it has over other economic sectors, and for its capacity to create jobs, this tourism as a job creator, as a promoter of culture, economy, and local products has been reflected in several of the SDGs. More particularly, when we talk about the SDGs 8, 12, and 14, tourism directly or indirectly contributes to job creation, most of all in the most vulnerable groups such as young people and women. And it fosters economic development with the creation of small and medium enterprises. For all of that, the closing of this event of this sector has had huge social impact and lots of losses of jobs around the world. So now more than ever, we need to improve professionalism in the sector. We are capable to offer innovative answers and responses to these new challenges by means of developing new touristic talents. If we look back, like Marta was doing when she presented us, and if we remember the higher education in tourism, we may find a key that can help us understand why the effects of this health crisis have been worse in this sector than in any other. And the fact is that despite the importance of the touristic sector, there was always a lack of training, higher training, specialized higher education in the sector. That's why tourism was included much later to innovation. In fact, even before the pandemic, from the beginning of the 21st century, we already had a tourism model that was completely unsustainable. It was already mature, with not much innovation and not a lot of added value, in view of a society that was demanding something different. The tourists of the 21st century do not only want to arrive to a place and disconnect themselves and rest. It's not the same for them to be in one place or another. They try to find emotional stimuli. They're looking for experience, and therefore before the pandemic, we had to have qualitative changes in the touristic models, and that's only possible through research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And there can be research, innovation, and entrepreneurship if we don't have specialized higher education in the sector. Traveling and do tourism does not mean that you are a tourist expert. It's like voting in an election doesn't make us politicians, or taking care of a sick person does not make us doctors. Tourism is a multidisciplinary sector, transdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary, and so it matches art, geography, economy, history, rights, law, urbanism. In order to have a touristic discipline, you need to integrate knowledge that come from several disciplines and creating an appropriate area of knowledge, which is the touristic sector knowledge. We said that tourism knowledge were introduced much later into the universities, much later than many other disciplines, but currently they have recovered that prestige in universities around the world. Nowadays, we find ourselves with tourism studies at the three higher levels of training: degrees, masters, and and doctorates. Very, very specialized programs in the field of tourism. So even though the situation is better than at the beginning of the century, we still need to improve that much faster, because this pandemic represented a tsunami. We have to give quick answers to this situation. Anything that can be invented has already been invented. Sometimes I like to start my classes about creation of companies and entrepreneurship with this phrase that was enunciated by Charles Duell, a patent commissionist in 1889. But the truth is that he said that phrase, and none of us connected here in this forum, we don't believe that that is true, but we do find ourselves many times around us with people that do and act consequently in that way. So innovation is essential, and we don't know where the boundaries are, if any. And that's something that this pandemic has made evident: the capacity of resilience, of detecting and giving response to the new opportunities that changes generate, transforming, in other ways, threats into opportunities. We have to admit that this is going to pass too, and this is a great opportunity to reinvent the sector and speed up the changes that are necessary. From universities, we have to send this message and to be able to launch initiatives to contribute not only to the recovery, but also to the consolidation of tourism as a sector of high added value. For us, it's very important to have contributions between universities and companies, for teachers, for the entrepreneurs, how to impulse knowledge and entrepreneurship in companies of the sector and in the touristic destinations. From this cooperation, we can find new touristic products based on technology, data, user experience, among other examples, and we can also identify new segments and new niches with more possibilities of differentiating ourselves and internationalization. In my understanding, that's the way we have to go to. Universities, agencies, public administration need to work together to advance on the knowledge acquisition between the public sector and the private sector, the university and the companies, developing talent, innovation, job creation of quality, and that's all in our hands. We need to be able to generate meeting points, such as this forum, that facilitate the creation of partnerships and cooperation agreements, so that we all together can move forward with these common goals. Universities, we must be leaders of these transformations. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, actually. We agree on so many things, from the academic sector of whatever you said, I truly believe, and all of those in the academia, we believe that the virtuous triangle, academia, government, and companies, is key in order to interact together, because that's the only way for us to move forward and to change paradigms. I completely agree that even though this pandemic has been very painful, it has stopped something that we had to change. Thank you so much. We'll get back to you in a few minutes. Now, we'll hear from Roberto. So, Roberto Iparraguirre, Dean of the Tourism and Environment University of Cordoba. Roberto, hi, nice to see you. Hello.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to meet you, even though remotely, and share this activity with you. A warm greeting to colleagues and managers, tourism managers in Cordoba, Spain, and congratulations, and to ask for permission because I'm the only man in the panel, and Marta talked about the presence of women in tourism. It is actually in many sectors. Out of 1,600 students, we have 55% of them are women. And this speaks about the importance and the thrive by women. Having said this, let me begin with my presentation. First, I'd like to thank the organizers. This is a high-level forum, and I've had the chance to listen to not all, but most of them, most of the presentations, and really congratulations on the level of the forum. The provincial university, we believe that our institution must be included and inclusive to all of those that are interested in studying and included in the society. Regularly in the university, we talk about cloisters. The word cloisters in Latin means to close, and we understand that knowledge must not be enclosed in cloisters, must be open and distributed in the case of tourism in order to improve economic, environmental, and social development through research and university extension. Some days ago, I read a report compiled by the UNESCO Institute for Higher Education in Latin America and the Caribbean, where 4 main aspects are considered for higher education facing 2050. The 4 aspects involved the responsibility in promoting well-being and sustainability oriented to justice, solidarity, and human rights. Third, to nurture from intercultural diversity, respecting cultures and identities, and creating forums for dialogue. And number 4, to create interconnection, to promote connections among cultures and to connect higher education with other levels of education, including informal and non-formal education. We understand without a doubt the role educational institutions play at all levels, particularly universities, to actively participate in the development of the skills and the power of communities. The great challenge is to provide high-quality training to the largest number of people possible. As regards tourism, we need to imagine urban and rural spaces that ensure health protection and environmental health in general. In the short and medium term, we'll have to train our students as regards the needs to maximize health care, their own health care and the tourist health care. And we need to enhance or provide an unforgettable experience. Not long ago, we spoke about the need of tourism and the positive impact tourism has on the health of people, and isolation has really enhanced this need. We believe that as soon as we have sanitary conditions in place, this sector will accelerate its growth. We need to be trained to do that, to face that situation. Concepts such as proximity traveling, recirculation of money in weakened sectors, regional economy, circular economy, economy of knowledge, domotics, renewable energies, energy efficiency, connectivity. These are issues that are involved in tourism, and they are here to stay. Company incubators, business models, investment projects, SMEs, strategic alliances will be adding community tourism, cooperativism, and gastronomy, food tourism, and more sustainable hotels in this new scenario that is approaching. Training professionals that promote local development from dialogue based on governance, creating synergies among the different social stakeholders, and will then be able to develop the network we need. The interrelation with public institutions and private institutions, formal and informal, at the local, regional, and international levels, will strengthen ourselves. As an example, in our university, we've been developing programs and seminars cross-sectional to the programs as regards the four aspects that I mentioned before. The aspects put forward by UNESCO. Seminars that are cross-sectional to the rest of the programs, such as, for example, building peace and coexistence, peaceful coexistence, and the economy, not the market economy, but the economy that is demanded by society in smaller scales. Also, environmental issues that we need to discuss, comprehensive accessibility programs, programs to develop gastronomy. We belong to the international social movements based on three pillars: sustainability, networks, and task forces. Programs to promote gastronomy, different programs on entrepreneurship and also for budget management in the framework of the SDGs. We are part of the Ibero-American network of domotics and renewable energies, together with the energy commitment from Cordoba. We have a program in place for 3D tools applications, laser scanning, and the Jesuits heritage. And we're working together with the Cordoba Agency of Tourism to establish the strategic sustainable tourism program in Cordoba. And we are training 29, we're providing programs in 29 municipalities, programs on gastronomy management and hotellery. And during pandemics, we've been together with other institutions organizing webinars for tourism protocols. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roberto. We know how hard your university works because it is inclusive. That is very important. So we can all learn about tourism in an inclusive way, and that is really a privilege that is including all of the business sectors. And also what you mentioned about the provincial university, how you're working with the whole territory. We can really tell how much you're doing, and in the future, where we have to understand that we're moving towards a more natural and environmental tourism, and we have to learn this because we kind of forgot about this. Thank you, Roberto, for your participation. Now, Gabriela Larrauli from the National University of Cordoba. Good morning, Gabriela. I know that you're a lawyer, but we're very interested in what you have to say about the RAIZ program supporting local administration. And we know that you're government trainers for local regional government. So we're really interested in your experience from the Core University, National University of Cordoba. Thank you, Marta. It's an honor to be here representing the National University of Cordoba.
This university is my home. It's a pleasure to share this panel with you. I'm going to ask Nati if she could present. It's a short presentation, but I'll continue talking. RAIZ program is an initiative that already existed at university level. They had a program like this. It works mostly with the local government of Cordoba, or the city governments and the community governments. What we did from this new administration, with all the support that Dr. Judy gave us, is to do a more organic work structured around the local development, open government, and innovation in public management, administration. So the characteristics of this program are based on those three pillars, on those three axes. And the truth is that we aimed substantially at working with an actor that we think is strategic in the territory, which are the local governments. We are not going to talk too much about the characteristics of the program. There is a query code that you can scan and access to the website of the university where all the program activities are. We know that time is of the essence, so we wanted to just go deeper mostly on one of the work lines that this program has that is related to the local development and what has allowed us to approach the territories and to bring them closer. The idea of this program is that the National University of Cordoba reaches the territory. We go to the cities and to the communities that we started interacting with in order to take the organization all together. All the training programs that we are trying to put together, it's not about closed or canned type of programs. We go to the locations, and from the organizations themselves, we put together and articulate new ways to work together and to work on knowledge mostly. So that's the main axis that this program has. Now, around tourism, what we decided to do is to set up within local governments the outlook of tourism, not only as an activity or an industry or an economic activity, but to give tourism a public entity. And what we try to do is to focus on public policies, and we understand tourism needs to be planned, designed, and assessed as a public policy. And in order to do so, we need to have certain competences, certain skills, and that's what we are trying to build in the local environment. So basically, the outlook, this new outlook and these new challenges that we understand implies having this new era of knowledge. We are fostering and taking to local governments and to the territories this concept of public policies that is, of course, cross-sectioned by the 2030 Agenda SDGs and the millennial goals. So we're not thinking only about tourism as a public policy, but also development with sustainability criteria, which means economic development, environmental balance, for the construction of any enterprise or any plan in terms of tourism. And of course, as it was said before, of course, we want to have a multidisciplinary approach for this changing context, and in that regard, we need to have in each one of these locations and regions in the province that we go to, we need to be able to approach them in different contexts. And to finish, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what was one of the first experiences. In fact, our experience when we worked with the axis of the program, we had different lines of work. One of them, we call it the host city methodology, to work on the articulation between academia, local governments, private sector, and society. What we do is to try to articulate with them in the territory, and the idea of the host city allowed us to work in the northeast of Cordoba with almost all or the most important local governments. The host city was Villa del Soto, but we worked with San Marcos de Sierra, Cerrezuela, San Carlos Minas, Zacate, and finally we were able to articulate a roundtable to measure the sustainable tourism indicators. So they expressed the need to be able to assess information, high quality information. So from that information, we could develop something on tourism. And what we worked on 2019 and 2020 was the design of indicators, and with those indicators then we collected information and we were able to start discriminating against those needs that they have in an articulated way, an offer of sustainable tourism for the region. From that experience, that wonderful experience that we had in the Northwest, what we were able to do as a result, and what we can start looking at as results, is that these dialogue tables, these articulation tables, are sustainable. It has allowed them to move forward in certain aspects. We were able to develop different types of training programs, some of them more related to the design of touristic circuits or tours in a region that has great difficulties in terms of infrastructure, accessibility, and it's a region that is clearly linked in terms of historical singularities, religious singularities. So we are now articulating and trying to have conversations and build the best image and the best identity to potentiate tourism in the northeast of Cordoba. Another interesting thing to highlight is that we were able to, in this articulation table, we were able to put together a website. We built a website common to all these cities. They don't do their independent campaigns, touristic campaigns. We were able to articulate one for the Northeast region, where all the cities and communities are integrating, and they present their potentials, and they can offer tourism. Clearly, it's a stage, and it was a great experience, a very important experience as a program. And in other areas of the province of Córdoba, we work other designs of public policies. And in the case of the Northeast, the design is about making sustainable policies. And to close, from the National University of Córdoba, we believe that we need to rethink the university in this link with the different actors in the territory. Thank you so much, Gabriela. Thank you. So beautiful. The northeast of Córdoba, so beautiful. Now we'll hear from Eugenia Nanis, Director of the Tourism Program, also Director of Environmental Management. Eugenia, you are the multiple director of something that is very close to my heart. Thank you. A pleasure to see you. You have been an adorable teacher from the very beginning in Blas Pascal, Córdoba. We hear from you now. Let's try. The only thing I'm going to ask you is, we are really way past delayed.
I will try. I'll do my best. Good afternoon, and thank you. It's an honor to be here with you, sharing this panel. Thank you for the passion that you've always conveyed. Today, it is a challenge for me, and I have this short presentation I'd like to share, and I agree with all of my colleagues. We need new professionals with new skills. Today, we're facing unprecedented channels, and we need to reset. Reset in the entire world, reset in the tourism industry that contributes so much to the economy of many countries. An industry that has to be born again in a world with 80% of the primary forests are lost, 2,000 millions of waste, and 30% of these waste is food, and 30% of the population are in a crisis, very deep crisis, and most of the people that the producers of waste are hotels. So we have an unsustainable model. We need to change it with a post-COVID tourist that demands many things. Destinations that are local, boutique hotels, natural places with health safety will be really the most important factor. Travelers that seek for transformative experiences. Experiences that that are life-changing, and also work action, since the remote teleworking is increasing, so maybe combining vacation and rural space. But this trend has been going on for many years now. But as a result of this dynamic industry, we were kind of lost, and did not focus on the importance of this. Statistics stated that 60% of travelers would have liked to have a nap, where destinations could be recommended, and the increase of tourism will have a positive impact in communities. Or since 2018, 2019, and even before pandemics, 60% of tourists were after natural destinations. It's not that we were not generating this, but we were kind of obsolete. And we suddenly were faced with the fact that we needed to reorient tourism based on SDGs, a more inclusive, safer tourism, bottom line, sustainable tourism that considers circular economy. Linear economies have failed already. We've seen, as a result of pandemics, that the development of the world has failed, and sustainable tourism has to focus on different approaches we can see on the slide. I will not go through them because of time constraints, but in addition to sustainability that is needed by the tourism sector, we need to be able to sell this to the world in a different way. These new destinations that need to rise, natural destinations, they need a marketing strategy. We already we're developing this, but we need to include storytelling. With Steve Jobs created iPhone, he did not sell or market iPhone, and so the public actually acquired it through storytelling. So we need to have the money that Steve Jobs has, but we need to be able to sell our destination in a passionate way. Thank you. and also the new skills that are needed, technological and skills and soft skills that have been put forward. And so we need to train the new professionals from our two approaches we have, that is environmental and business approaches. And with this joint work between the public, private, and sectors and the academia. Thank you, Eugenia. The program from Blas Pascal University was the first program that was oriented on ecotourism. Silvia Ramallo from Siglo XXI University. We are connected to business. You are an executive yourself. You're very much related to companies and businesses and governments. Very dynamic relationship you have with them. So we want to hear from your perspective and your experiences.
Now we can hear you, sorry. The presentation, can you see it? Yes. I'd like to thank mostly Maximiliano Malvesin for calling me to open here, and you also, Marta, thank you so much. If we talk about inclusion, our university, the private university Siglo XXI, we consider inclusion as the main pillar. We are a private university, the biggest ones. We have students all over the country, 23 provinces, the Puna, and our branch in Antarctica. We have inclusion in under our skin. So the idea was to tell you about the new paradigms. I'm going to focus on what we have to think about, those who train in this training, the new managers. We have, as a university, a model, a training model from a well-being ecosystem for our students, what we call the positive education. In order to foster knowledge in our students, we talk about creating an ecosystem, a well-being ecosystem, where complex contexts, we have the obligation to think about the world in a very positive way, to develop academic skills, but most of all, human skills in our graduates. Educational institutions have the moral obligation of looking at the social skills and developing emotional skills, allowing better academic performance for all of our students. Then we have to think that our students need to understand that they have to be conscious managers of their impact. And when I say conscious managers of their impact, is understanding professionalism as a key tool to manage territories, to transmit the importance of students as a change agent. They need to understand the responsibility that they're assuming, and they need to be very efficient in terms of managing the value chain of tourism as facilitators, dialogues, synergies among the different touristic actors. And, of course, the touristic professional needs to be a local leader, very, very strong roots, but without losing that global look. As a director of the three programs that I represent, we want our students, and that's what we tell them in the classrooms, we want them to trigger an aware tourism. We want them to trigger that by the sustainable development. And the third paradigm that we need to understand is the one of entrepreneurship and generating jobs. Develop skills in our students for understanding, and most of all for local jobs, by fostering wit. for detecting new opportunities, not the formulas that always repeat themselves. Facilitation for employment, and also to foster from the training program local projects of development. We have to close. The impact of planning of the SDGs. We are working very much on the SDGs. We were one of the 3 universities that have worked on the SDGs, of course, with the protection of the natural patrimony and cultural patrimony, proposing sustainable places, and of course, deep work on the synergies that you said, Marta, of a productive world to understand their needs, the public management and academic management. And I close to say that for us, it's a very important paradigm to transmit to our students is that through the right touristic management in hands of professionals, we can validate and bring dignity to each territory, add value for the identity, respect and pride. And the professionals in tourism are a key player. Thank you to the panel. It was a pleasure to have listened to you. We wanted to listen to you. We are going towards the light at the end of the tunnel, but in good hands, because you are preparing these new professionals, the ones we need for the years to come, with a lot of hope that we are going to correct ourselves from many defects, as Monchita, they call you that way, I know, in Conchita in Spain, to be more aware of the environment. A pleasure to have met you, and let's hope that we can continue in contact. Thank you so much.